Welcome to Andrew's Workshop Projects Part 2. This time, my friend Andrew came to visit me, bringing with him some work in progress on his Stuart Models 7A vertical steam engine. If at first you don't succeed, just repeat the process over and over until unconsciousness or death occurs. I refer to his first attempts at making eccentric sheaves. I can't really comment on this design. It even uses metric countersunk Allen cap head bolts, just to hold a cover onto one side of the eccentric. Why doesn't Andrew just make these like the drawing? It's an emoticon. It's going, oh f***. I thought I'd better beep my comment out there. It's a little face. This was by far the worst attempt, but there are more. Here's another attempt. No flanges at all, and also the eccentric holes were drilled so they're not actually in line, so not only are they eccentric in one direction, they're eccentric in the other direction. And then there are these with the thickest flanges I've ever seen. Far too thick, far too overscale for the intended purpose. This last comment was not aimed at my friend Andrew. These are how the eccentric sheaves are meant to be made. Not difficult to do in a 4-jaw chuck, but machining the matching slot in the eccentric straps is quite difficult. I often take the easy way out and make them sort of like this, but you don't need 2 flanges, only 1. When the eccentric straps are fitted, they can touch each other, and that way they hold each other together, and of course at the other side is the main bearing, which is often but not always big enough to stop the eccentric strap from moving. These are like miniature steam locomotive eccentrics, usually with a very thin flange at each side. Don't forget, you have to make it so that the eccentric straps line up with the valve spindle. And if you look at this arrangement with the massively thick flange, look where the valve fork, which of course is unmachined, but look where it is. It's nowhere near the centre of the valve rod. This is where this casting needs to be. Don't forget, there's a slot going to be milled in this, as indeed there will be in the other one, which needs bending. The purpose of these eccentric rods that are integral with the eccentric straps is to move the expansion link from side to side. The eccentric sheave is no good at all with such a massive thick flange on the inside, and also the main bearing at this side is a bit too wide. This method cannot possibly work. Andrew has not been model engineering for very long at all, and this will be the first, hopefully, of many steam engines that he's going to build. In this clip, using a ruler, I'm trying to illustrate the point of how much of the bearing would need to be machined away if he used a really thick flange on the eccentric sheave, to allow the centre of the valve fork to align correctly. Andrew doesn't work in imperial measurements, he uses metric, so I've turned the rule over. Model steam engines normally use imperial measurements, and these are perfect. Often, metric is a compromise. It's nearly the right size, but sometimes it's under, sometimes it's over. The plan today was to give Andrew some bits and pieces that are not metric to make this engine, but it didn't work out as planned. He was a bit late, and by the time he got here, I'd turned the heating off in the main workshop. As this job progresses, I'm really hoping that Andrew makes a new top cylinder cover because this one is too small. There is no accounting for individual taste. Andrew is making this engine the way he wants to make it, not the way I would make it. I mean, what's going on here? The holes are not in the middle. They have to be in the middle. But according to Andrew on the drawing, they are shown offset, and for what reason I really don't know. I haven't got a 7A drawing, so I cannot cross-reference this. Andrew then pointed out that it's in the way of the bolt required to hold the cladding in place. I pointed out that the cladding didn't need drilling for a bolt at this point, as it would be held in place by the bracket. At this point I really wanted to hit this fitting with a hammer, but I didn't. My friend Andrew has his own YouTube channel. It's called Model Engineering Adventures, and it's really well worth a look. He's got some really fine equipment and lots of gadgets for measuring. I'll let you take a last look at these eccentrics. Some of them are reasonable and some of them are no good at all. More parts for Andrew's drawer of shame, which contains a lot of parts that were made wrong in the first place. Here I'm making a point about bearings. You don't need a massive bearing on this side, but you do on the flywheel side because it's supporting weight. A while ago from a deceased estate I bought quite a few Stuart models. These were factory machined models. The builder, who sadly died, was not an engineer, and it really showed in the way they were made. This, for instance, is an S50, and it has a non-standard flywheel on it. It has a heavy flywheel, which is too heavy for the casting bearings. And when I got this, it was incredibly worn. Here it is running on compressed air in slow motion. I drilled and reamed both bearings, and on the middle one I fitted a shallow cast iron bush, and on the one on the left hand side a larger one to support the weight of the flywheel. And as you can see, this works very well. I'm trying to help Andrew with his excursion into the model steam engine world, and to give him a bit of encouragement I showed him this. It's a really good example of a Stuart Models twin Victoria. I made a series about this because it did need rebuilding, mainly due to the fact that the man who put the kits together didn't really know much about engineering, and if anything was tight, he drilled it out. I had to make a complete new crankshaft and a new crankweb. It's still not 100% perfect, but the timing really is very good.
On 10 psi.
A lot less now. It should go slower than that. As you've just heard me say, it should go slower than this. But it has been on the shelf for some time, and I didn't oil it before we gave it this short run. I'll leave you with this eccentric sheave that is clearly in shock. Stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.